The Galactic Medical Council had a rule about humans. Not a written rule, not an official policy, just an understanding that had developed organically over 40 years of working alongside Earth's medical teams in crisis zones across the galaxy. An understanding that every non-human doctor, nurse, researcher, and emergency responder eventually arrived at through personal experience rather than briefing. The rule was simple. Do not tell a human patient they are going to die. Not because humans could not handle difficult news. They could better than most species, actually, with a directness and practicality that other civilizations often found startling. Not because humans would panic. They rarely did, which was its own kind of unsettling. But because of what happened when you told a human they were going to die, and they decided they disagreed. Doctor had learned this rule the hard way. He was a species known for medical excellence, precision diagnostics, and a calm analytical approach to biological systems that had made them the most respected physicians in the known galaxy for 3 centuries. He had graduated top of his class. He had 42 years of experience across 11 civilizations. He had never lost a patient he believed could be saved. He had also, in his career, delivered terminal diagnoses to over 2,000 patients of various species. It was never easy, but it was honest, and honesty was something he believed in absolutely. He had delivered his first terminal diagnosis to a human patient 17 years ago. Her name was Commander. She had been brought into the emergency bay of Galactic Station Meridian after her ship had been caught in a quantum shear event that should have killed her instantly, and had instead done something to her biology that had spent 6 hours trying to understand before concluding that understanding it fully was less urgent than telling her the truth. She had extensive cellular damage across 40% of her body. Her nervous system was compromised in ways that his most advanced regenerative technology could slow, but not reverse. Her own biology was attempting repairs that were, by every metric he had, insufficient. He had sat down beside her bed, looked her in the eye the way he always did, and told her clearly and compassionately that she had approximately 3 weeks. She had looked at him for a long moment. Then she had said, "That's not going to work for me," and asked for a data terminal. He had assumed she wanted to contact family, make arrangements, the things terminal patients did. She had spent the next 11 hours reading his research notes. What happened over the following 3 weeks was something still thought about regularly, 17 years later, in the way you think about things that permanently rearrange your understanding of how the universe works. Had not accepted his diagnosis. Not in a denial sense, she had understood it completely, absorbed every piece of data, asked questions that demonstrated a grasp of cellular biology that surprised him coming from a military commander rather than a medical professional. But understanding the diagnosis and accepting the outcome were, she explained to him on the second day, 2 different things. "You're telling me what your models predict," she said. "Your models are based on how other species respond to this kind of damage. I'm not other species." "Commander," he said carefully, "human biology, while remarkable in certain respects, has surprised you before," she said, "hasn't it?" It was not a question. He did not answer, which was itself an answer. She went back to the data terminal. She was, he discovered over the following days, doing something he had never seen a patient do before. She was not researching treatments. She was not looking for experimental procedures or miracle cures. She was reading everything available on how her own body worked, not human biology in general, but her specific biology, her own medical history, the particular ways her cellular repair mechanisms had functioned throughout her life. And she was constructing, from first principles, a theory about what her body was actually doing versus what his models said it should be doing. On day 4, she called him over and showed him something in the data. "This marker," she said, pointing, "your model flags it as a sign of system failure, but look at it in context of these 3 other markers over here." He looked for a long time. "That's," he said slowly, "not failure." "No," she said, "it's not. It looks like your cellular repair mechanisms are attempting a process I've never seen documented," he said. "They're not trying to repair the damaged cells. They're trying to replace the repair process itself," she said. "Yeah, I think my body is trying to solve the problem differently than your models expect, because your models are based on how other species solve it. and I'm not other species. What followed was not a recovery in any conventional sense. It was something that subsequent research paper, published 3 years later and cited over 40,000 times across galactic medical literature, described as adaptive biological restructuring in response to catastrophic cellular trauma, previously undocumented in any known species. His body did not repair the damage the way his models predicted any biological system would. It did something that should not have been possible. It essentially rewrote its own cellular repair protocols on the fly, developing a new approach to the problem that bypassed the damaged pathways entirely and rebuilt function through routes that had not previously existed. It took 6 weeks instead of 3. She was in significant pain for most of it. She did not complain about the pain in any way that suggested she wanted him to do something about it. She acknowledged it the way you acknowledge weather as a fact of the current environment and went back to whatever she was doing. What she was doing for most of those 6 weeks was working. Not resting, not recovering in the passive sense. Working, reading, analyzing, writing reports on her own condition that she sent to Earth's Medical Research Division, consulting remotely with colleagues on projects that had nothing to do with her health, and periodically asking questions about her own biology that forced him to go look things up, which was not an experience he was accustomed to with patients. On day 41, she sat up in bed, swung her legs over the side, and stood up. Was across the room. He crossed it very quickly. "Commander." "I'm fine," she said. She took 3 steps, stopped, took 3 more. "A little unsteady, that'll pass." "You should not be." She looked at him. She had started using his first name on day 6, which was also not something patients usually did. "Run the scan." He ran the scan. He looked at the results for a very long time. 40% cellular damage, compromised nervous system, terminal prognosis in 3 weeks. All of it was gone, not reduced, not managed. Gone, replaced by biological structures that were, in several respects, more robust than what had been there before the quantum shear event. Her body had not just survived, it had upgraded itself in response to the trauma. "This isn't possible," he said quietly, not to her, just to the room. "Your models said that too," she said. She was walking steadily now, back and forth across the room, recalibrating. "Your models are very good, but they're built on data from species that haven't spent 200,000 years almost going extinct every few generations." She paused. "We've had a lot of practice at not dying. Apparently it goes all the way down to the cellular level." Published his research. It changed galactic medicine in ways that were still unfolding 17 years later. The core finding was both simple and profound. Human biology did not respond to catastrophic trauma the way any other known biology did. Other species' cellular systems attempted to maintain existing function under damage. Human cellular systems, under sufficient pressure, could abandon existing approaches entirely and develop new ones. Not always, not reliably, not in ways that could be predicted or controlled from the outside. But with a frequency that, once you were looking for it, was impossible to ignore. The paper's conclusion had been written and rewritten 6 times before finally settled on a version he felt was scientifically defensible without being so cautious it missed the point. Human biology appears to treat catastrophic damage not as a terminal condition, but as a problem to be solved. The mechanisms by which this occurs are not yet fully understood. What is understood is that the solutions human biology develops under these conditions are frequently novel, approaches that do not exist in the organism prior to the crisis, and do not appear in any other known biological system. It is the position of this author that human resilience is not a property of human biology in the conventional sense. It is a behavior, one that operates at every level of the organism simultaneously, from the psychological to the cellular, with a consistency that suggests it is not incidental to human nature but central to it. He had one more line that he had almost cut, and then kept because it was true, and he believed true things deserved to be said even when they were difficult to defend in a peer-reviewed journal. In 42 years of medicine across 11 civilizations, I have told many patients they were going to die. I have learned to be accurate in these assessments. I have learned to be compassionate. I have learned many things. I have learned not to tell humans,